All right, guys, I got to disclose something right off the top. All right, the way it works over here at Bad Guy Inc. is I make a video for you, but by the time I process it and get it loaded onto YouTube, about an hour goes by. In the next hour, this could all become very clear. But I want to talk to you for right here in this moment because BJPenn.com is saying that Marvin Vettori has stated Robert Whittaker is out of their upcoming fight. I got to stop right. I didn't know those guys were fighting, and I love that fight. Somehow, that walked past me. But now I know that the fight is off because Vettori is suggesting that Whittaker is out of it. I'm trusting that in the next 60 minutes, that's going to break. But Vettori is also suggesting that as a replacement to Whittaker, he fight Darren Till. What do you think of that? I like it. I don't know where Darren Till's mind is right now. I know he's doing all of the right things. I know from a marketing standpoint, this friendship he's got with Chimev, I mean, this is the most unlikely duo that you can't quit watching. It's very interesting. Then you got Bisping telling stories. These guys are shopping together. They're documenting the whole thing. Like, it's really fun. Till's in a really good place. Till's training has got to be great. We know the stuff they're doing out in Sweden. We know the sacrifices that Till is going through. I'm trusting that you guys follow this online and they put out these different things on YouTube. I do. So we know that he's sacrificed. We know that he wants to get better. And we also, as we juxtapose against the guys on that team, and specifically Chimaev, that seems to be an offering to the missing piece of Darren Till's game. So at least in theory, we're checking a lot of boxes when I tell you I don't know where Darren's at mentally. If somebody ever goes through you, not just you get beat, somebody goes through you, you weren't ultra competitive. Psychologically, you will question yourself, at least in the short term, at least for the next fight and maybe a couple of fights, to make sure that you've done what's needed to close that gap, to get rid of that deficit. So it'd be very normal if Darren Till was living with some of those questions right now. I see something different when I watch Darren Till. I see a great fighter who has a problem in one specific position. I see the same thing. You just want to talk about that weight class with Shahbazyan. Shahbazyan, who was absolutely red hot, the youngest guy, and going through everybody, and undefeated, all of a sudden he runs into a problem or two or three. It was the same position. Now, I trust that you smart marks know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not going to offer it up. I'm not going to out a guy. That's for the opponent and their team to do, but it's just one spot. You only got to work on one spot. You don't have to throw absolutely everything out. Darren Till doesn't have to get rid of anything he does on his feet. Offensively, Till's a pain in the ass, which is why guys are trying to take him down in the first place, but defensively, Till's hard to touch. He's hard to get a hand on that guy. Gotta work on something, right? Gotta work on something. I offer that in addition to an interview that Till just did. It had to do with Izzy Adesanya. Now, when people talk to Till, they talk to him like a star. The questions keep coming back like a main eventer. The questions he's getting asked are what you would ask a champion, a main eventer, a number one contender, all of which Till was. And Till, for the first time ever, gave a response that lacked confidence. The response to Adesanya was, that fight's a long ways away, but he finished. I don't need to hear anything else. I do not have to hear anything else. It's the first time Till has ever spoke and shown a weakness. And it's relevant. And I think he's questioning himself. That's all I'm saying. It's not a big deal. It'd be very normal if he was. Be very abnormal if he wasn't. But that's where I bring Vettori in. That's a really interesting matchup. And Angry Marvin is a very interesting style. Now, Marvin has the same skill set that has caused Till a problem in the past. That's true. But Marvin doesn't go to it right away. And Marvin doesn't go to it very often. Marvin's a brute. Marvin's the same guy that for 25 minutes punched and kicked it out with Adesanya. All right, he's going to stand with you. He's going to give you the opportunity. He's going to go absolutely. I just like the fight, is what I'm suggesting for you. At some point, Till's going to have to get in there. He's going to figure out, was this training, were these methods correct? Have I addressed this deficit that Chael keeps alluding to? Can I avoid that position completely? Or moreover, if I'm returned to that position, can I deal with it now? It's just one of those things. In an ideal world, right? Because don't forget, I didn't even know this fight was going to happen. Somehow I'm Whittaker versus Vettori. My God, I love it. But I didn't know it was going to happen. So I also don't know where it is on the card. Is that the co-main event? Very relevant if it is. In a perfect, you don't ever get anything perfect. Ever. In a perfect scenario, Darren Till, who's working on closing the gap to a deficit. He's willing to change up his entire life, change up who he surrounds and spends his time with, how and where he trains. Because of this one problem. If he could return to 15 minutes as opposed to 25, that would be the ultimate scenario. Because now you can take that pace, you can take that conditioning out a little bit more, and you can make it about skill. And I do think in a game of chess, Darren Till is as good and as skilled as anybody doing it. But you change what you're doing if you change one element. If you change one rule, if you take out one tactic, if you add 2 rounds, you're now doing something different. Who'd win between the 49ers and the Broncos? Oh, and by the way, they're going to play 8 quarters. I just described something totally different to you. Whatever you thought was going to happen, you're now going to rethink it. The Cowboys are taking on the Patriots. They're playing 1 quarter. Everything changes. For some reason, that never gets given a consideration. 2 fighters. Just kind of do say, it's the same thing. It's a little bit longer. It's a little bit short. No, it's not. You're doing something different. Conor McGregor was the first to ever speak about, and I'll use his words, managing energy. But that comes from a psychological standpoint. How are you going to manage that energy? I also don't think that Darren Till got his ass kicked by Brunson as bad as it looked. I don't. I think Till started doing what we call taking inventory. I think Till's in the 3rd round saying things aren't going great. Oh, and by the way, I got another 13 minutes out here. That stacks the deck against you. It just does some, plays a trick on you. And you'll try to recompose, and you'll try to grab, and that's your quarterman's job should you make it to the right. Like, there's a lot of things going into the element that I'm just talking to, but if you don't get a hold of that monster that's talking to you, everything's going to fall apart. Things in that fight fell apart. They fell apart because he got frustrated. Oh, and by the way, he's likely to be in the same position for what's going to feel like an eternity. It's very different. So I've got some questions of my own. I love the match between Whitaker and Vettori. I would have brought that to you guys. I would have counted down I don't know how I missed that one. But secondly, if in fact that was established, and if it in fact is now off, and Vettori is in fact trying to preserve his participation in the event, then the placement on the card is already set. And if that is anything less than a main event, I would encourage Till strongly to make sure that he get that opportunity. If it is a main event, I still think Till needs to give a look at it. The scenario changes. Our breakdown might change. The toughness that's required is going to change. That's okay. That's okay. But for Till to want to ease his way back into a sport from a tactical and strategic standpoint, I would understand that too.